Good afternoon and thanks for clicking on to the Friday edition of Vogan's European Outlook. We've reached the final European Outlook of the working week once again, and a busy weekend as always coming up here at Vogan Weather. We've got the Tropical Outlook tomorrow and we've got the live stream as always at 4 p.m. on Sunday afternoon. I will try and leave a link in the description below today's video for that live stream this upcoming Sunday. So anyway, CDAS shows that the past 10 days has been predominantly warmer than average across the UK, as well as much of Europe here. The west coast of the UK has actually been average, and then if you go over to Ireland here, it has been largely average as well. But the month to date remains the same, below average, and I think we will wind up firmly below average when all is said and done here. This is the latest temperature anomaly across the continent up until Friday the 26th of July. And I don't think we've got anything major to speak about to remove this below off the map here. But I want to very quickly touch on a couple of things here with regards to what has happened so far. So this is actually a rough draft of the Europe August outlook that I'm currently working on. And I just wanted to kind of touch on a couple of things here and discuss it briefly, looking at the persistency in this kind of standing wave pattern that has been very, very resilient right the way through June and July so far. It has been a very, very similar situation, and the question mark is, can we shake this somehow into the month of August? I've obviously highlighted for quite some time now that we need something to give the atmosphere a kick. That would likely be the tropics. We've got the MJO likely to move into the Atlantic Basin as we move into August. That will ramp up the hurricane season in the Atlantic Basin, or very, very likely will anyway. We don't know for absolute certainty, obviously, but that is likely to kick things off. And essentially, I believe anyway, the North Atlantic sea surface temperatures have been essentially driving this pattern so far. I think a combination of dry ground in the east of Europe here and the very, very warm anomaly over the central North Atlantic has dictated the ridge, trough and jet stream position pretty much all summer. So we've went through 6 weeks of summer so far, and essentially 1 week of that has delivered some proper bona fide summer-like weather. Up here across the north of the UK, Scotland still awaits its first 25 of July. We have to go back to 2010, the last time we've waited this long for 25 Celsius in Scotland. And there is a possibility that we don't even achieve 25 before the end of this month, which would be a pretty hard feat to do in this time, in this day and age. So this is the 500 millibar pattern here, seen between the 1st of May and the 6th of July. This has been sent in to me by Richard Trott, so you can see, very hard to see. In fact, let's just very quickly blow this up just a tad for you to be able to see this a little clearer. So this has been the period between the 1st of May, like I say, and the 6th of July. So this is all the way back to the last month of spring, first month of summer and the first week of July as well. And you notice here something really standing out. We've got the negative over southern Greenland, but this positive here, centered over the North Atlantic here, has essentially allowed the sea surface temperatures, with a lack of wind, a lack of cloud cover, has allowed the temperature on the surface of the Atlantic to warm to significantly above average levels. And then in turn, I think this has had a feedback loop that's created higher pressure over this region during the first half of summer so far. Essentially, the first 2 months of summer has been driven by a high over the North Atlantic here. And what has happened is we've seen the negative then over the northwest of Europe. And then with the help of drought in Eastern Europe, we've seen a strong ridge of high pressure over this part of the continent as well. But you can see here, this is the upper air setup here for for this period here. This is the 300 millibar mean zonal wind anomaly, 1st of June through the 16th of July, and essentially it kind of tells you the same story. So we've had stronger winds over the north of Greenland. We've also had stronger winds over the central Atlantic. But look at the ridge here in the central North Atlantic here, with a negative over the UK and Ireland here, and then the region also a lack of wind. This is obviously representative of the winds at 300 millibars, or kind of essentially jet stream level. And you can see here a lack of wind over especially Central and Eastern Europe here. We've had windier conditions at 300 millibars over the UK and Ireland. We've had a swathe of wind extending from the eastern United States here underneath that ridge of high pressure and extending towards the southwest of Europe here in the means. This is obviously the 1st of June through the 16th of July. This is the month of June, and you can see here that we had a below average month here, very warm across Eastern Europe here. And I go on to say that with the exceptions of a brief spell which saw 2 consecutive days above 30 in the southeast of England, June was a cool month, and July is no better. July has been incredibly similar, with persistent central North Atlantic region, with cool west to northwesterly flow in the UK and Ireland here. So this is the first 10 days of July here, seen by the CDAS. According to the Met Office, the UK summer through mid-July has been remarkably cold by recent standards. This tweet by Aidan McGivern of the Met Office. Since the year 2000, only 1 year was this cold, 1st of June through the 8th of July, and that was 2012. So there's the UK mean temperature for the summer up until the 8th of July here. Up until the 11th of July, there was no 25 Celsius anywhere within the UK or Ireland, as you can see, and a large area of France, Low Countries and Germany was the same as well. So the first half of July was fundamentally below average. But like was seen in June, and this is quite interesting, like was seen in June, there has been a change in the pattern. What that exactly is and what's behind that is a little bit uncertain. It's obviously effects that are taking place within the entire global system. Some of these little tweaks, some of these little minor adjustments in a ridge pattern, a pulse of MJO active phase or whatever, it can distort the ripple effect through the atmosphere. But we've seen almost an identical warming during the month of July as was seen back in June here, and almost exactly like we saw during the final 10 days of June. Winds took a turn from west to northwest to west-southwest here, and this is the anomaly for the period here. So this is the month of July up until the 24th. I showed you obviously up until the 26th. And of course, this is the time of the year that we normally see a peak in summer temperatures across Europe. So you have to go out to the 20th of July for that to happen in Iceland. Up across northern Scandinavia, it's already been and gone here, the 21st and the 18th respectively for Sweden and for Finland. Down across more central and southern areas of Europe, it's actually the very end of the month, if not the beginning of August here. So Scotland, like I say, awaits its first 25. It may not get there, which would be quite impressive. But all in all, it's been a remarkably persistent Atlantic-Europe coupled pattern. And the North Atlantic sea surface temperature profile has been a lot to do with that, I think. So this is the period here between the 1st of June and the 19th of July. And that is the reason why we've had such an unsettled and disappointing summer, because we've had the high 2 key areas of high pressure focused over the drought area of Eastern Europe and over the very warm waters of the North Atlantic here. And you can see the sea surface temperatures responsible for that. So look at this area of very, very warm sea surface temperatures boosting high pressure, but essentially allowing a trough to descend into the UK and Ireland here. And this has been the reason behind the ideas. A little bit of drought over the northwest of the UK, but generally speaking, we've been in very, very good state. Central and Western Europe here, driest conditions across the southeast, and I believe that is where we are going to see the ridge setting up. Then as we move into the second half of May, we increase the drought over Eastern Europe, continue to see fairly decent conditions, a little bit of an extension over Iberia, which is no surprise given that it is the driest time of the year here, a little bit of increase over Ireland and northern UK as well. But this was the ideas that I had for the month of July. Almost a repeat of June, with the highs focused over the warm waters of the North Pacific and the North Atlantic, and also I believe that the high would be focused over the central United States. That actually has not happened. We've actually had a trough and colder than average conditions over the centre of the United States during the month of July. Very hot east and west. We'll look at that in the upcoming global weather report. This, by the way, was released by myself back at the end of May. This was the overall summer idea, a mixture of warm and cool, but I underestimated the level of cool in the pattern across the west of Europe here. But frequent hot spells extending from Eastern Europe all the way across to Iberia. We've seen quite a cool first half of the summer in Iberia, but we're starting to see the ridge move from Eastern Europe towards Iberia here, and that is going to be interesting going forward into the month of August here. Now, we are seeing an intertropical forcing starting to take place over Africa, over the western portion of equatorial Africa. We're starting to see the monsoon increase in intensity at the same time that we're starting to see the region building stronger over Northwest Africa and into Iberia here. This could be some subtle, interesting changes that likely is taking place due to the time of the year, natural, furthest north position, both of the ITCZ and the subtropical ridge. It tends to be at its most northerly position now, and that in itself allows for adjustments in the overall pattern. But like I said, an incredibly resistant standing wave pattern has been persistent right the way through summer so far. This setup has essentially took place, so a pretty good July idea overall. Now, obviously, like I've already said, the summer forecast has had its faults, but the June forecast and the July forecast is turning out pretty darn good. The massive question mark will be, do we see changes taking place into the month of August? And as I've harped on about for time and time again, that will go down to the tropics. And we are expecting to see the MJO move into the Atlantic basin, increasing the strength of the African easterly waves, likely development of tropical storms and hurricanes. We are going to start to see the dusty air that's been crossing the Atlantic from Africa to the United States into the Caribbean in recent times. That will start to weaken its grip, and we will start to see things taking place here. But looking at the GFS 500 millibar geopotential heights here, this is the 6-hour increments here. You can see here this is the current situation as of today. So we've got a deep trough dominating the UK and Ireland pattern. As we play through this loop here, you can see that we do have a little bit of a deepening of the negative here, driven by this trough over Greenland here. That is going to allow heights to come down over the central North Atlantic and then raise heights over the UK and Ireland. We are going to see a warmer, drier weekend coming up, extending into early next week, and it could turn fairly hot for a period of time towards the start of the week. We may see a 30 Celsius, for example, in the southeast. But I don't think we're going to extend that heat into the northern half of the UK. The problem is the GFS then sees that there is a split develops in the west, to the west of the UK and Ireland in that mean ridge. The ridge will likely hold for the first half of next week, so this takes us out to the very end of July. But as we step into the month of August, we're starting to see the same thing coming back into play once again. The regrouping of pressure building over the North Atlantic, northwest of the Atlantic, but deepening of the trough. We're going back to the same thing once again, according to this model. Then as we play right the way through the loop, it looks as if the GFS ensemble is still showing a negative over the UK and Ireland and a ridge over the North Atlantic. Haven't we seen this time and time again? Interesting outlook here by the JMA. Now this is an interesting one. This is the 500 millibar geopotential heights and the winds within the upper atmosphere, so essentially the jet stream winds here. This is the current situation here. We've got the negative to the northwest of the UK driving the pattern at the moment. I know this is very hard to see, folks, and I do apologise for that, but as we play through, you can see here that we do have a build-up of pressure into the UK and Ireland as we go in through the course of the weekend and into early next week here. However, it doesn't look as if it's going to last. We're going to see a rather anomalous deep low swinging into the UK and Ireland as we move towards the end of next week here. So this is the 2nd of August. That is not a particularly warm look. So let's have a look at the surface pressure chart here of the ensemble, the JMA. This is a JMA day today, and you can see here as we go back to the current period. So this is mean sea level pressure, by the way. We've got the negative at the moment here. Then as we move through the course of the week and into next week, we've got that ridge of high pressure over the UK and Ireland as the negative deepens over the North Atlantic. But then as you can see here at the surface as well as the upper levels, we swing a trough back into the UK. And that's quite an anomalous low, by the way, for the first couple of days of August, seen by the JMA as we move into the first few days of the month. Looking at the CFS V2, this is the upcoming 7-day period here, and you can see the extension of the ridge here, the trough to the north, generally westerly flow, but we've got a little bit of pressure build up over the south of the UK. This is week 2, so this is the period between the 2nd and the 9th of August, and essentially we've got the same scenario taking place. Ridge over the North Atlantic, trough extending from Iceland down towards the northern UK here. So generally speaking, it looks as if there is no major heat to speak about as we step in to the month of August here. Finally, looking at the CFS V2, temperature anomalies here. So just bear with me a second here. Let's go to Europe and see what the model is indicating with regards to this here. So, like I said, this ridge is starting to move westwards here over southern Europe, which is quite interesting. That may be in response to what's going on within the intertropical convergence zone of equatorial Africa. That does have a tendency, as that starts to increase the strength in equatorial Africa, to then feed a buildup of pressure to the north of that. And therefore, as we see that energy crossing the African continent within the tropics, the ridge sometimes can follow that. And that may be what is taking place. So certainly we've got a dry outlook in the foreseeable future here. This is week 1 into week 2, turning a bit wetter with that trough digging in across the northern UK, but still drier across the south of the UK. Then the following week, 9th through the 16th of August, is dry compared to average here. So hopefully we can at least shake off the wet pattern at least. Looking at temperature anomalies off the CFS V2, this is week 1. Warm south, cool north, hot across France and Iberia here. Into week 2, again, you've got this north-south split in temperatures. Week 3, you've still got the same thing taking place here as well. So I think it's a fairly classic step into the month of August. So that's it for today. Like, share, and subscribe on today's video. I would greatly appreciate that. Check out the Tropical Outlook tomorrow. It should be an interesting one. And the Global Weather Report, I think it's edition 102. Going to be looking at Gaemi, the world's new temperature recorded in recorded history. Don't shoot the messenger, but we'll discuss that. We'll look at other aspects taking place around the world as well. So stay tuned for that at 4 p.m. on Sunday afternoon. Join me for that. See you tomorrow for the Tropical Outlook, and enjoy the rest of your Friday, everybody. Bye for now.